Hello, it's me again, Katie Lewis, the head of MFL at Pearson Edexcel. In this short video, I'll be talking to you about our compassionate and inclusive assessments and our approach to DE&I in our accredited GCSE French qualification, which will of course be the same approach for our German and Spanish. So one of the things that a compassionate and inclusive assessment must do, particularly in foreign languages, is to address the disparities in cultural capital between our students. So we've been using this image and characterising it as the cultural capital chasm. Now, it may be that you know what that image is of. It could be a place that you visited, it could be a place that you just happen to recognise. If I was to say, all of you who have recognised this location get a point, and all of you who haven't recognised this location don't get a point, that's just not fair, because it's penalising those of you who happen not to know that this is the Ronde Gorge for reasons that have got absolutely nothing to do with anything within your control. And that's the barrier that we need to remove from our MFL qualifications. Some of our students have never travelled abroad. Some of our students have never travelled outside of the town where they live. Some of our students have a wide range of cultural experiences. Some of our students don't. Within our assessments, we need to make sure that cultural capital isn't one of the barriers to the students being able to demonstrate their language abilities. When we get into the question papers one by one, you'll see how we've addressed that cultural capital chasm across all of our different papers to ensure that even though we can't completely do away with the disparity of cultural knowledge among our students, we can make sure that we minimise it as much as humanly possible. So why do we need student-centred design? Well, if a student comes out of their GCSE MFL thinking that they did poorly, thinking that the exam was really difficult, that they weren't sure if they understood the question, they weren't sure if they could interpret the question appropriately to make sure they were answering it in the way that was being expected of them, they carry that experience forward. They carry it forward for themselves, they carry it forward to their peers, to their younger siblings. And if we want to get to the root of solving those problems that we talked about in the first video around the decline in uptake and the perceptions around MFL, we have to put the student and their experience at the centre of our new qualification. If we think about a scenario in which we say, well, yes, the exam was challenging, yes, the exam might have been inaccessible, but don't worry because the grade boundaries will be low to compensate for that. So you were going to get a 4, you're going to get a 4. Now, okay, we could look at it like that, but imagine we could actually look at it and say, the student is in the exam, they understand what's being asked of them. The only barrier between them and that grade 4 that they deserve is their language knowledge. No tricks, no surprises, no hoops for them to jump through. They come out of that exam and they're feeling, hey, I feel like I did quite well there. I knew what was expected of me. I got out everything that I wanted to say. I got down everything that I wanted to write. That's the experience then that they carry forward. And 2 months later, when they get their grade 4, it's a completely different experience of that outcome than if they had got that whilst feeling like they weren't very good. The student who feels like they weren't very good is not carrying that positivity forward into A-level and beyond, and then not carrying it forward into their future life as a potential language user. So how can we make a qualification student-centred? Well, we can make sure that students retain confidence by having consistent paper design. If students know what to expect, they feel more confident. So the same question for the same number of marks in the same place in the question paper every time. Students feel more confident when they can be well prepared. So ensuring as far as is humanly possible that our assessments are the kind of assessments and have the kind of content that students can prepare for and can feel well prepared for. We want to create equity at the point the exam paper is opened, and we've talked about addressing that cultural capital chasm. We want to make sure that only linguistic knowledge stands between the student and their ability to perform to their best, not their ability to unpick overly complicated or complex, tricksy questions. We need to make sure that we provide students with opportunities to communicate and to communicate about things that interest them. So our research with over 800 children that made up the foundation of this new qualification said that 83% of them being able to communicate in the target language with other people is their favourite and main reason for wanting to learn a foreign language. And yet, what is the assessment that they feel the most nervous about? The speaking. So rather than taking something that they want to do and elevating that into something that they enjoy, we've almost kind of created a situation through the exam experience where we're dampening down their enthusiasm for having that communication. We need to do something different, and a student-centered approach to a qualification is a way of addressing that problem really from the very, very beginning. We also need to keep asking students how they feel about our assessments as they become live. So not just to say, oh, we've done all this research, we've made all these great decisions, this is a new and improved GCSE offer, off you go, no more work for us to do there. We need to keep listening to students, hearing their feedback and being open-minded to continuing to engage with them and making sure that their views are reflected, not just in the accredited specifications, but also into the live materials for the lifetime of this qualification. So in our accredited GCSE French qualification, with the same approach being applied to German and Spanish, we've taken a position on DE&I, which is usualising as opposed to normalising. So what does usualising mean? So the idea of usualising was developed by an organisation called Schools Out UK, who you might well have already heard of because they also established LGBTQ+ History Month in the UK. So normalising is this idea of some things being normal and other things therefore being abnormal. So it kind of implies making things normal rather than celebrating the many, many different ways in which they can be different. So usualising is more about making something familiar or acclimatising ourselves to difference without setting that difference apart as something strange or noteworthy or requiring further explanation. So the way that we do that is by sprinkling our content with a range of different people, different lives, different lifestyles, and so on. So in our assessments, we're applying that concept of usualising by making a variety of people, variety of lives, variety of family circumstances visible, by dropping in references, by dropping in examples. So for example, a text featuring a disabled person whose actual disability is incidental to the main topic. When we go into the paper by paper detail, you'll be able to see examples of where that principle of usualising has been applied across our materials. Thank you for watching our short video on our approach to compassionate and inclusive assessments. If you'd like to see how this is put into practice in our question papers, please go ahead and take a look at the videos which will walk you through the speaking, listening, reading and writing exams.